as far as I can see, the most regularly quoted percentage is about 80 to 85% of
Wow.
the world have never flown. Now that's actually quite a remarkable statistic, isn't it? Because the planet, there's about 8 billion people, just
Wow.
under 8 billion people, and when you think of that, 80% are likely never to have boarded an aeroplane.
Wow.
That is quite remarkable, and probably a big part of that comes back to this flying fear. But sometimes, well, let me ask you another question: what percentage of the British population do you think have never flown?
Should I go first? I'll go first. I would say just over 60%.
Have never flown.
Yeah, I would say just over 60%. And
Jerome, what do you think?
Yeah, because lots of from my observation, lots of British nationals they do lots of holidays within the UK, and by so doing, they don't. Some of them don't fly. Lots of them don't fly. So I would agree with M on this.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, in fact, again, the various figures are bandied about, but I think the most accurate one is about 22%
wow.
of British people, which is towards a quarter, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
over a fifth, really. But
Wow.
22% of people have never flown. And a lot of that would be people who are too nervous to fly, who've made a decision they don't want to fly. They're too frightened of it. Not all of them. Some would just, as Jerome said, some will holiday in this country, they'll drive, they go on the train or whatever. But a great many people around the world are very frightened of flying, as we say. And I guess, I don't know whether statistics on anything help us. I mean, lies, damn lies, and statistics. We can almost say anything with statistics, but it's worth saying it with flying that it is statistically pretty much the safest place to be, and even safer than in your own home because people fall downstairs or trip up or burn themselves. Being in an aeroplane is incredibly safe. And would it make any difference to you, Cuz? I'd ask you this question. I mean, Jerome doesn't have a phobia. He's not frightened of it. That's great.
Yeah.
You would perhaps have a measure of fear. So
Yeah.
if I said to you, not only is it the safest place to be in an aeroplane, but the odds of being in an air crash are, I'll tell you, I won't ask you because it's too wide a question, are 1 in 825 and a half million to one. Now that's not far short of a billion. So 1 in 825 million to one of being involved in an air crash. Now, to win the Euro Millions lottery is 1 in 145 million. So you've got far more chance of winning that. I think the Powerball lottery in America, which they now have a $2 billion prize, the odds there are something like 1 in 600 or 700 million. So you've got more chance of that than ever being involved in an air crash. But perhaps a better statistic, a more encouraging one, is you could fly statistically every day for roughly 2,500 years. And even then, only have a small chance of being involved in an air crash. Now, okay, that's statistics. And if, some could say, well, that you go back to January, there were 2 or 3 unfortunate. That's statistics. And if, some could say, well, that you go back to January, there were 2 or 3 unfortunate air crashes. There was a collision with a helicopter in Washington, and statistics mean nothing if you happen to be on that plane. But the fact is, that happens, thankfully, to a tiny, tiny, tiny number of people, however tragic and it was tragic. Any air crash is tragic, but it is so rare, so unusual, that the vast majority of humanity will never, ever experience anything like that. And yet, people who are frightened of flying, they'll get into their car and not think, actually, this is a potentially far more dangerous thing to do than actually flying in an aeroplane. There was a sad story, it was either earlier this year or sometime last year, where there were two Ryanair pilots, two young fellows. One was 34, he was a captain. One was 28. They flew their plane back to Luton Airport, delivered their passengers, and then they had to get, I think, down to Gatwick Airport. So they took a taxi from Luton Airport early hours of the morning to come down to Gatwick. And very, very sadly, the taxi was involved in a bad collision on the motorway, which killed them both. Now, that is a bit of a it's a sad reminder that being on the roads is a lot more dangerous than being in an aeroplane. So it may, and you know, our thoughts with those families and with those pilots. But in fact, it's worth remembering that if someone is thinking, I'm too scared to go on an aeroplane, it's a very safe place to be. You're going to be perfectly safe 99.9999% of the time. So I recommend it as a means of travel. It's an incredible experience. You say there's not much to see, but it's just the sheer exhilaration, you know. And the most important point, perhaps, about flying is it's an exact science. People don't get into an airplane and hurtle 160 miles an hour down a runway and hope for the best. Oh, let's hope this is all right. It's a precise, exact science where everything is measured to the nth degree in terms of the lift of the plane and the thrust and all those things that go into it. And when you're on the aeroplane, as you take off, it's incredible. And I've just come back from a holiday in America, and you take off and you hear the thump of the wheels coming up. You get to know the sounds, and then the flaps on the wings are going in and going out, and the plane turns. And it's actually quite exhilarating if you just enjoy it. I know if you can't do that, it's hard, but if you let yourself go, overcome any anxiety, it's a wonderful experience, flying. And it does come back to our main point. It brings home what an incredible invention an aeroplane is. How long do you think the longest commercial flight today is?